So today I'm going to be keeping it real about using two DAWs in music production. I primarily use two DAWs. I started off with FL Studio and then I added Logic Pro to my lineup of DAWs. So I'm basically just using two softwares right now to make music. Like all the music I make, I just bounce back between the two. Some people thought I quit FL Studio, but I actually didn't, because I literally own FL Studio. So how can I quit something I own? I didn't quit. You know, I'm just using two and interchanging them, you know, as I see fit. And I'm going to explain further in this video. That's why I wanted to make it, because some people don't use two softwares. They only just use one. But for me, I've been making music for around 10 to 15 years. And I'm sure I even forgot exactly how long I've been doing this stuff, because that's how long I've been doing it. I've been doing this for so long that, you know, counting the years and everything doesn't really matter to me. I just keep going and keep going and keep going. Obviously, I take breaks in between, but they're not really for too long. I keep coming back to making music. It's so crazy. The first thing I want to talk about is the learning curve, right? Because like I said, I started with FL Studio and then now I'm using something else. So it took me a really long time to learn FL Studio, like to be able to actually master it as much as I can right now, to actually make good music and like learn everything. Like if you see here in FL Studio, there is so much windows, you have to learn every window, right? So if I shut down everything like this, it's just empty. And then you come up here, you see all these windows, like you've got the playlist right here. It's its own thing that you want to learn and make sure that you master, right? And then you come here, you open the piano roll. There's so much to uncover in the piano roll and so much to learn. Then next, you have to work with the channel rack. There's so much to learn with the channel rack that you can, you know, get into and all that. And the next, we talk about the mixer. So much also you have to, so with all these things, you have to learn them one by one as you go. And when you're learning all these things, you might want to learn them all at once, or you want to learn them one by one. It just depends with how well you catch stuff. And I'm not even mentioning, like, you know, just the browser itself. That's a whole other conversation. So you have to learn all these things. So for me, it took me a long time to master all these things so that I can get to a comfortable place to learn. So the learning curve was crazy here. That's what some other people think about, and they're like, yo, do I want to try something new? Because the learning curve is gonna start over again. Basically, when I started using Logic, I basically just started over again, because as you can see, Logic is a whole different software. It's not built like FL Studio where you have these windows. Of course, you can open stuff up. Like if I want to open the piano roll, I'll come to this pencil here, and then you can see down here. Now you can see there's a piano roll open, and then I can just close it like this. So everything is basically attached. It's not like in window form like you find in FL Studio. If I want to open the mixer, again, the same thing. There's a button there for the mixer, and then the mixer comes up, and then you just start working on your music. And if you want to control software, there's also a control software thing here. If you want to load up your sounds, they're not on the left side but on the right side, and you know, you just start browsing. And if you want to load up just the Apple loops, they're also on this side here. So the workflow is basically different, but if I'm being honest, it's almost like it's the same. Things carry over. So things that you have learned from another software might actually mostly carry over to the next software. A lot of things are basically similar. Like the concept of mixing is the same overall. So you don't need to worry about, you know, if you're gonna have to start again to learn mixing again or learn composition again if you are using a new DAW. So for me, that's not how that works. That's not what I saw when I was using Logic Pro and FL Studio together. So it's a different thing when it comes to the workflow. It's not something that I think is very daunting. You know, you can, if I could learn FL Studio, if you could learn FL Studio, you can definitely learn any other software. You can learn Logic, you can learn Ableton, you can learn Studio One. Learning is even easier after you've mastered at least one DAW, because now you have all those basics and all that knowledge that I said again can apply to the next software. The next thing is also about workflow, right? So when it comes to workflows are definitely different when it comes to you know, the software that you're going to be using. The workflow in FL Studio is definitely different from the one in Logic, and I can prove that, right? So the thing is, if you are doing a workflow that is reliant on drums in FL Studio, you're going to be using the channel rack, which Logic Pro does not have, right? It has its own version of a channel rack that it has, like this one here, which is the step sequencer, but they only added it recently. And it doesn't really feel like the same as, you know, the channel rack in FL Studio. It feels totally different, right? Because it's its own different thing. So if I load up a new, let's load up a new, let's say a drum kit designer right here. And if I create it like this, so the drum kit designer has drum kit. So I'm just going to load up this root kit, and then I come here and open a pattern region like this. You can see here how this looks, right? So then now you do basically what you usually do. in the step sequencer. So then you load up your drums like this. That's a whole different thing from what you do in FL Studio. FL Studio is much quicker. It's basically, for me, it is way much quicker in its workflow when it comes to creating drums, because basically you're just taking them from this browser here and just dropping them over here, and then you're good to go, and then you just start making your drums. But in Logic though, you kind of have to take the drums one by one and then create, and then take drums one by one and then create, or you have to just load up a whole folder like I just did here with this drum kit, and then you place them. Then so the workflows are totally different. When it comes to composition, it's kind of similar because you're basically just using the piano roll. So all you just have to do is open the piano roll, and then you start working, and then you just start drawing notes. So over there I can give it to both softwares that it's basically similar. So but the workflow is different depending with which software. If you're using Reason, I know Reason has a whole different other workflow. I think I've tried it once before and it's super interesting, but the workflow is crazy. It's totally different for me. Let me know down below if you've tried it before. The next thing is plugins. Definitely plugins are like super important when it comes to music production and everything that we do, because where do we get our sounds? It's nice to use samples, but the plugins are where it's at. You know, we have instrument plugins and then we have effect plugins. But I'm not gonna lie to you, depending with the software that you're using, that's gonna be something that is either gonna make you buy third-party plugins or just use mostly stock plugins that you have. For me, FL Studio has cool stock plugins, but they're really not the best. That's why a lot of FL Studio users purchase third-party plugins to add. So as soon as you buy your FL Studio, the plugins are really nice, they're really cool and all, but then you're gonna find yourself trying to buy more than these, because these are just basic and they're simple, and they're also genre dependent. So that's the thing with it. So you have to buy certain sounds that fit the genre that you make, because some people are okay with just using just the stock plugins. Like Morphine is a really good plugin. Like I really love it. It's great. It's got really nice presets that you can find here, but the quality sometimes of the sound doesn't really sound good enough, man. It doesn't sound good enough. Then you look at Toxic Biohazard. It's also a really nice plugin, but again, the sounds might just not hit and might not be the ones that you're looking for. Another plugin I really love is Flex. Flex is the best plugin for me, in my opinion, in FL Studio. So when you load up Flex, you know, it looks really cool. It's got all these packs, and then you can also get more in the store, like more preset packs that you can get, that you can buy to add to it. So that's a good thing. And then you just most people just add their plugins to FL Studio. That's just what I'm going to tell you. Most people are not using stock plugins. That's why for me, I try to use as many stock plugins on the channel as I could, to show that you can actually use stock plugins in FL Studio. They work, but it's a hassle to get them to sound good. That's just the honest truth. And then we'll move on to Logic Pro. Logic Pro has really beautiful stock plugins. I love how they sound. They sound really great. So now if you have two softwares that you're working on, it's a good balance. So if you want to maybe start your track by doing drums in FL Studio, you can definitely do that, so that you make your drums using the channel rack in FL Studio, because it's a superpower that you find in there. And then if you want to move to sounds, then you can create your sounds in Logic Pro, because it has really great plugins. So let me just show you one simple thing that I can show you here when it comes to sound. So I've got a piano part here, which is right there, which is the Studio Grand. That's a really beautiful piano, right? It sounds really good. I like how this piano sounds. So it's right here. It's a Studio Grand. So this is a stock piano that comes with Logic itself. So this is just a simple stock. Now let me show you the stock piano that comes in FL Studio. So here's the piano right here. You understand? FL Keys is okay, but a lot of people just avoid it because it doesn't sound really good like the piano that I just showed you. It's not the best sounding piano. It just doesn't sound that great. So a lot of people end up looking for third-party pianos that they can use. In Flex, you can find some pianos that you can get here, but they still don't have the sound that you would be looking for, that really good sound like the one that you're hearing on this piano here. And then other plugins, like I can talk about Retro Synth. It's also a really beautiful plugin with like really great presets that you can find in here, like they're really quality. And then like for me, I call it the Omnisphere of Logic Pro is Alchemy. Alchemy is crazy good. Like it is a beautiful plugin. Let me just make it bigger. For me, this plugin makes Logic Pro really worth it for me in terms of the sounds that it has. It has so many sounds. It has so many sounds. And I have some sounds of mine that I also have just favorited here. The sounds that I commonly use, I just favorite them, so that if I'm looking to make a new track, I can just do that. I can just use this. So it's a superpower to have both, for me to have both, because I can play around. If I'm struggling with drums in any way, if I'm struggling with composition in any way, and I feel like FL Studio is kind of limiting me in the sounds, I just move over to Logic Pro. If I feel like in Logic Pro that my drums are not coming and hitting as much as I want them to hit, then I just move on to FL Studio. So that's the advantage of having two softwares, because sometimes the workflow might work in another and then it doesn't work in another. So that's the thing. So when it comes to plugins, it's also an advantage to have two, because you can switch between both. And then lastly is the quality, right? So obviously quality is something that a lot of people would probably be thinking about, because you're wondering like, yo, what about the quality between the two? I always get asked that one question every time when I share my music online, like on my social media. People always ask me like, how's the quality between FL Studio and Logic Pro? And right now I'm basically just going to talk about broadly of all software. I think quality is basically subjective depending with who's listening and what is quality, because if we talk about quality and then someone does not make quality music, the quality of that software is going to be misrepresented. So people are going to be like, yo, this is what you make with this software. It doesn't sound good at all. It's not quality. So maybe the software is not quality, but someone just didn't make quality music themselves. So, which is a fair assessment in my opinion of how you look at it, because it's debatable whether all software have different quality. To be honest, you let me know what you think down below, because some people believe that all these softwares have different quality, but I think it's just about what they offer. Like I said, the plugins are different. So obviously that's going to be a different output, that's going to be different quality. So if you play a piano somewhere else and a piano somewhere else, the quality depends on the plugin that you used, you know, and also how the piano is played basically. So that's the thing for me, because if I play you a beat that is here in Logic, so depending with how you felt this beat and how you enjoyed this beat, that's going to determine how you are hearing the quality of the software itself. And then if I move on to FL Studio and then I play something in here, so you can definitely feel the difference here, but now the difference is in the music, and depending with which beat that you liked. Did you like the beat that is in Logic Pro or the beat that is in FL Studio? So that's gonna kind of dictate which one you think sounds more quality, and also depending on the plugins that I used to mix and also master the track, if the track is mastered. So that's where the quality ending up. But the output itself, if I load up the same sounds in the two softwares, I don't think you're gonna hear a difference there. But like I said, the difference is basically in the production that is done, and also the sounds in terms of the plugins that I use, how quality the sounds are. So that's why a lot of people, when they use softwares like Reaper that are super simple, they try and find really good third-party plugins that are really good quality, so that the output that they're making is also quality, if that makes sense. Overall, you know, in conclusion, I really am enjoying using multiple software to make music, because it's like basically having two pairs of shoes for me. That's how I look at it. I always use that analogy. It's like having two pairs of shoes. You know, you use them for different things, and sometimes you might be feeling a vibe and then you try one software and then you try and make something with that software and it's not coming along. It's always a good idea to try something new, a new workflow, a new software, you know, like FL Studio looks, you know, nice and dark, and it's got this, you know, its own feel. But then if I switch to Logic, that's a whole different feeling altogether. You know, it's colorful, it's got its own way of doing things. So that can actually refresh your mind and, you know, make you approach the same idea differently. And that idea can work in Logic or it can work in FL Studio, depending on, you know, which one you try and which one works best. So for me, that's why I bounce back around between the two softwares. If I have an idea, I try it on both and see which one comes out the best depending on the workflow. But that's all I have to say. I really like it. It's an advantage. Let me know down below if you use two softwares or you just use just the one. And, you know, I'm not saying you should use more, but if you're happy with the one, that's okay. If you're going to use two or even more, that's up to you. But let me know down below what you think about using multiple softwares. And if you want to support the channel, there are links down below to everything that I use to make music. You can check out all my drum kits and all my templates and things like that. But thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next video. I'm X and I'm out. Peace.